Oh, she's so pretty. People love to talk about pretty privilege, how being attractive can just make your life so much easier. But nobody really talks about the dark side of being pretty. Sometimes that attention that you get isn't flattering. Sometimes someone decides that they find you attractive and they're entitled to all of your attention. Because although it might start off as like a little harmless crush, it can turn into something that you never saw coming. What's up and welcome back. I am Denise.Jewels, and if you don't know who I am, I tell short, creepy healthcare related stories online. But this one is a little bit different because instead of dark shadows and dark figures, it's a real person. It's still horror related, it's still connected to healthcare. But this one is different because this is a very real situation that could happen to anyone. This is the Dyson story. Imagine punching in for work and becoming one of your patient's obsessions. This is when I learned how dangerous it can be being pretty. Everyone loves talking about how being pretty is a privilege, but they never talk about the part how people just feel so entitled to you. I used to work on a med surge floor, and one of my favorite coworkers was this girl named Dyson. She was a 25-year-old Italian model, beautiful type kind of girl, and she would just turn heads walking into a room. Baby, I'm talking about the patients was flirting with her, the staff noticed her, even some of the doctors hit on her. And for her, it was completely normal until she met Scott. During one of our 3 night shifts together, she was assigned to this 40-year-old man named Scott. He was quiet, polite, the kind of patient you don't really think twice about. And the first night that she walked into his room, she came back out and she is cracking up. She's like, my patient just told me I'm unrealistically attractive. Not for real. But as anybody, I could tell she was just a little bit flattered, even if it was just for a moment. The second night, she goes in and Scott asks her, hey, what's your favorite food? And she answered it without thinking. No big deal. Later on that shift, his call light goes off. He said that there was a food delivery at the security desk. I go down there to pick it up because she was busy at the time, and the receipt had her name written on it. And the note said, from you know who. And it was a lot of food. So we split it between me, the tech, and Dyson because we weren't gonna let her go down for accepting the gift while on shift. And low key, I think she did it so she could be like, we enjoyed the meal because it felt a little bit suspect. That third night on that shift, Scott was gone. He had been discharged early. The room was clean, but whatever he had felt for Dyson didn't leave with him. About a week later, we walk onto our unit and there is a massive bouquet of flowers just sitting at the nurse's station. Super gorgeous, really expensive, the kind you just don't casually send. We're sitting there commenting on the pretty bouquet, and the charge nurse walks up to Dyson and say, "Oh, those are for you." Dyson kind of froze, and then she read the card. To Dyson, the most unrealistically attractive nurse, Scott. That little smile she had on her face quickly faded away, and then she asked, did he deliver these himself? The charge nurse kind of looked at her a little alarmed, like, no, a delivery service bought them up. Is there something that we should know? And Dyson was like, yeah, these came from a patient. And the charge nurse laughed, like, well, girl, it sounds like you just earned yourself a Daisy Award. At first, it kind of felt harmless, but she left the flowers at work. I mean, would you have taken them home? Later that week, Scott found her on one of her social medias. He messaged her and he like, I just want to make sure you got the flowers. She confirmed, she thanked him, and she ended that conversation. Sis should have blocked him though, because a few nights later, Dyson posted this selfie at the movies with her teenage niece. And when the movie let out, Scott was there, standing just outside the theater, smiling, way too happy to see her. She said she couldn't find it in her to smile back. She blocked him that night, and that's when she realized that maybe this wasn't a crush. He was watching her. After Dyson blocked him on all of her social media, she didn't say anything to us about it at work. And then one morning we were walking down the stairwell after our shift. And about halfway down, I noticed someone pacing near the parking lot like they were running, going back and forth, back and forth. And at first, I thought maybe it was like security just checking out the perimeter. But then when we stepped outside, that's when I realized it was Scott. He slowed his pace the moment he saw us, like it was coincidence that we were there along with him. Like, hey, Dyson. We both slowed our steps, and Dyson forced a slow laugh. Hey, Scott. Funny running into you here. He kind of chuckled. Yeah, funny running into you. Listen, I was wondering if maybe I could get your number and maybe we could hang out sometime. I watched all that color drain from Dyson's face, and before she could answer, I jumped in like, "Oh, you know what? That probably would be a problem because if HR found out, she could get in serious trouble. And I can't lose the best nurse to do it ever. You know what I mean, Scott?" I nudged Dyson a little bit. She smiled, but if looks could kill, I'd have been dead right in that moment. His facial expression flattened, and he walked away from us. And as we headed to our car, I felt it, that prickling feeling on the back of your neck when you feel like somebody is watching you. And when I turned around, Scott was right there watching us, not waving, not smiling, just watching. I paused and I told Dyson, I'm like, hey girl, come here. Let's switch cars. Drive my car down to the gas station. She like, why? I'm like, homeboy is watching us. Don't look now. I don't want him to know what kind of car you drive. And as I said that, my eyes dropped down to her license plate and it read DYSNRN. Girl, she did drive my car down to the gas station. He didn't follow us that day. But the next night, when I came out of work, or the next morning, I should say, there was a card tucked under my windshield wiper, the same handwriting from the flowers, with the looping letters like Scott had sent on the flowers before, and it wasn't addressed to me. It was for Dyson. I put the card in my work bag. I got in my car and I started to drive home, but something felt off. I got a mile from work and my instincts just started screaming. You know how you get that little prickle in the back of your neck when you being followed? I check my rear view and there is a black Lexus sedan right behind me. I make 3 rights to make sure that this person is not following me. And after the 3 rights, he was. And I didn't want to go straight home. I made a quick left into a residential street and he was still there, 3 cars behind me, not changing distance, not passing. My heart was literally slamming into my rib cage. So I tested him and I pulled into the Dunkin' Donuts parking lot. Figured if I stopped, he'd have to drive in and either ride past me or park. And he did. He pulled right in and he went through the drive through. And I sat there while my engine was idling, watching his car in my rearview mirror. All I could really see was his silhouette through that little back window and his baseball cap. The feeling was confirmed when he pulled out of the drive through and instead of leaving, he just parked directly across from me. The cap couldn't hide who he was anymore. It was definitely Scott. I didn't get out to confront him, but I also didn't hesitate to throw my car in reverse and pull off. I didn't stop shaking until I was at the police station. And when I got inside, their response is, has he touched you? Has he threatened you? And I'm like, no. I literally didn't stop shaking until I had made it into my house and the doors were locked and I knew he didn't follow me home. I reached out to HR and I even messaged my manager and everyone's answer was the same. We'll look into it. But the worst part wasn't the fear for me. It was for Dyson. To call her and let her know how things were escalating, and I told her that, hey, I would watch my back, and that's when she got quiet. Then that night, when she showed up for her shift, Scott was already there, standing in the parking lot, waiting for her. Dyson called me and she said, "Oh, shoot, I think Scott is standing at the parking lot entrance." I could hear it in her voice, that tight, panic whisper you use when you don't want someone to hear you. I felt sick to my stomach. I told her to stay in her car, make sure her doors was locked, and call security for an escort to the inside. Whatever you do, girl, don't walk in there alone. When the security arrived, she met them at the lot. She told them that she thought that the man standing there was the guy who had been stalking her. As they walked past him, Scott stepped forward, and he did not look happy to see Dyson this time. He positioned himself right in front of them and looked past them and locked eyes with Dyson and said, "I'm feeling unwell. My girlfriend is just ignoring me." And why he never broke eye contact with her, and without a warning, he pulled a razor out of his pocket and caused a self inflicted wound right to his arm. And then looked and said, "I don't think life is worth living." Everything froze in that moment. Of course, Dyson went straight into nurse mode, instinct, training, muscle memory. And the second she grabbed his arm to stop the bleeding, Scott smiled. "I knew you saved me." His eyes rolled back. They rushed him into the ER. They put him on a psych hold, suicide precautions, and Dyson told me later on that she felt awful thinking about it, but she kind of hoped that him being admitted would stop him, from showing up everywhere she went, and that maybe he would find another fixation or another crush while he was there. She goes and she reports the entire thing to HR, and do you know what they asked her? If she was his girlfriend. And when she told them no, y'all, they gonna say, well, she had nothing to worry about. But she told me something that night that I just couldn't shake. She said, "Something in my gut keeps telling me this isn't over." And the scariest part, she was right. And after that little stunt, Dyson took off a few weeks of work. And just like that, the activity just seemed to stop. We thought it was finally over. Our first night back together, she ran up and she hugged me so hard that she knocked my work bag clear off my shoulder. And when she did that, something fell out of my bag, that card. We both kind of froze. She picked it up and she opened it, and the front of the card said, "Thinking of you." On the inside of the card was only his handwriting: "Dyson, I think I could really make you happy. Give me a call sometime. Scott." She immediately went and made copies of it. She put one in our manager box, she put one in HR, and she reported that she had found it on her card. Between the card and the parking lot, she finally had enough evidence to get a restraining order filed. She kind of felt safe, but remember that gut feeling I told you she had? That wasn't anxiety, it was instinct. A few days later, she went on a breakfast date after work. It was normal, completely harmless, and she deserved that normal feeling. And as expected, she called me after that date, but she didn't sound excited. Her voice was shaking. "Hey, what kind of car did you say Scott drove?" "A black Lexus." There was a moment of silence, and then I could hear her voice cracking over the phone. "I think he followed me this morning. The guy I went out with came outside, and his tires were completely slashed." I literally thought that I saw a black Lexus behind me, but I told myself that I was just being paranoid. Do you think that Scott would do something like this? "Oh, yeah, girl, absolutely." I didn't hesitate to tell her, "You need to call the police for real." Then, out of confusion, she whispered, "I don't even know how he knew what kind of car I drive." I was like, "Girl, your license plate, DYS NRN. Baby, that's an easy way to identify your car. I didn't want to say it like that, but it was true. And she is on the phone. She is hysterical. The guy filed a police report, and the cameras in the parking lot didn't work. So, no actual proof or footage, nothing. I told her, though, I wouldn't go straight home. So, she went to her parents' house instead. Because at this point, we both knew that this wasn't a crush anymore. This was fixation. She said that she thought that the restraining order would end all of this, but to be honest, predators don't stop when they're exposed. They start to escalate when they lose control. After that debacle, Dyson did not come back to work that night, but I felt like it was something deeper behind it. When I checked my phone during my downtime, that's when I seen she had called, so I gave her a call back. She answered that phone and she was like, intuition is never wrong. Scott followed me right to my parents' house. My stomach dropped for her. She was like, she didn't even realize that he had followed her until she was in the driveway. She said he drove right past the house and I know he seen my car parked outside. I had full body goosebumps listening to this phone call. I asked her, like, did you call the police? And she said, yeah. But here's the crazy part. There isn't a black Lexus registered to Scott. So I asked, like, well, what kind of car is registered to his name? And then she had a slight pause. You know what? I didn't even think to ask. And then she goes, well, my brother just walked in. We're going to go to dinner and I will text you a little bit later. Y'all, about 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed with a text message. And it read, so my brother just beat up Scott. Water almost came out of my nose. I text her back like, what? She immediately called me. Turns out Scott followed them to the restaurant. Her brother went outside to take a call and he seen someone standing near his car. And when he walked over there, oh baby, Scott showed his true colors. He charged at him screaming, Dyson is my girl! Straight on psychotic break. Dyson said people came pouring out of the restaurant, staff, customers, everyone. By the time she reached the front of the crowd, her brother had hit Scott with a haymaker so clean that it dropped him down to the ground. The police were called, they came, Scott was arrested, and for the first time in weeks, I felt like both of us could breathe. A real sense of relief, safety, real closure, or so we thought, because Scott wasn't done just yet. We had such a relief. Dice and I actually celebrated Scott being arrested on our next night shift together. She bought the food, I bought the sweets. We thought that all of this was completely over. But you want to know one thing about being arrested? Child, you can always post that bail. And that next morning, we're walking down the employee stairwell again, and there he is, Scott, standing at the employee parking lot like he had never left. I called security, Dyson called the police, and they told her not to leave the building until the officers arrived. But as a mama of three at the time, I needed to go. And I figured that since his accession was with Dyson, I was good. Say it with me. Wrong. I walked out of the building with security and they told him that he needed to leave the property and he laughed and said, not without talking to my girlfriend first. And then this MFer rushed me. Yes, babes, with security right there. And he still got close enough to me that my instinct took over and I lifted my leg and I made full contact with his groin. And I ain't even gonna lie, the hood part of me low-key wanted to just keep on going. But luckily for him, the police showed up before he could even recover. Now a second arrest, new charge, and that was the end of Scott. But honestly, it wasn't the end of the damage because Dyson ended up leaving the facility anyway. She got rid of her car, she changed her license plate, she started doing travel contracts instead of being a staff nurse anywhere. And she told me something that really sticks with me to this day. Every time a patient stares at her too long, her full body stills react just like it's Scott. Because honestly, fear doesn't leave when the person does, it just changes shape. I definitely miss Dyson as a coworker, but I am so glad that she made it out of that situation safe. Because I can only imagine if it would have continued to escalate. So you already know I gotta ask you, what do you think about that story and what would you do if you were in that situation? Also, would love to know because this was an 8-part series that I posted to TikTok initially. Do you like the longer stories or do you like the compilations? Let me know that down in the comments as well. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you turn on those notifications because there will always be a creepy, unsettling, and downright strange story coming soon. And if you have any stories that you would like to share, you can always send them to me at Denise.JewelsStories at gmail.com. So thank you for hanging out with me during this story time. And until the next time, make sure you stay safe, stay curious, and as always, you know what? Wait. Make sure you trust your gut and be aware of your surroundings too. And as always, have your best spooky day. Bye.